Anyway, there's this guy that always is bugging me on fucking Twitter. And every time I say something about Jordan Peterson, he's the typical Petersonite. Like, oh, you got it wrong. Oh, you didn't understand. Oh, you misinterpreted. Oh, you misconstrued. Oh, you took him out of context. Oh, this, oh, that. How do you stay single in today's political climate without being called a MGTOW or being made fun of by family and friends? I want to start a career before I start dating. Fuck being 19 in 2018. Please help. Dude, just... Other people are always going to have issues with whatever you do for the rest of your life, so you might as well just learn to exercise your middle finger muscles. Just say, how you don't like the way I'm doing shit? Well, fuck you. It might seem like a primitive or antagonistic attitude to take, but trust me, it's the only way to live. So, the last time I did a Peterson video, you guys might remember, you might have seen it on the channel. It was, I was making fun of Peterson's PragerU video, and the guy is like, oh, of course you go after some 5-minute video of Peterson where he doesn't even have the time to properly explain himself. What do you mean properly explain himself? He's the one who agreed to do the video. If he can't properly explain himself in 5 minutes, that's on him, not me, motherfucker. Anyway, he said... Watch from 2320 on in this H3 podcast interview of Jordan Peterson and see what you got to say then. So I figured, let's do it. Fuck it, man. Let's give, the guy has been bugging me for months now. Let's see what, this is what he wants me to respond to. I'm glad to respond. Happy to fucking respond. Let's listen. Get ready to convert to Peterson. I'm ready, dude. I'm ready for Peterson to convince me.
You're a theist, right? Or, I mean, you're a religious guy.
I'm a religious guy.
And you have spoken out somewhat against atheism, if I understand that?
Well, I don't really believe in it.
You don't believe in it?
I don't believe in atheism. I don't know what sort of person that makes me. You don't believe in God? It's like, okay, I don't believe in atheism.
But do you think that an atheist... Because
the correct answer to what kind of person that makes you is a fucking idiot. For the record.
We just talked about our innate sense of ethics.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something...
Hold on. I'm going to read some psychoanalysis from the chat. TJ's so envious because Peterson is doing what TJ did for 10 years, but he's doing it effectively. What? You don't understand. I mean, either you don't understand what Peterson is doing now, or you don't understand what I've done for 10 years. It doesn't even make any fucking sense. Because I didn't go around for 10 years saying stupid shit like, well, I don't believe in atheists, then. You don't believe in God? Well, I don't believe in atheists. I've said some stupid shit. I'll be honest. I've said stupid shit here and there, now and again. Have I ever said something that stupid? Find it. Find something I said that was that stupid, you son of a bitch. Can't do it. You know why? Because it hasn't fucking happened. Hasn't happened!
Something that an atheist can have?
Oh yes, I think that atheists do have that. They explain that without reference to anything that would be metaphysical, you know. And fair enough. Look, as far as I'm concerned, if you can explain something without recourse to metaphysics, it's like good for you. Simplest explanation wins. But I think there are things that cannot be reduced so easily to the materialist viewpoint, for example. We have a bitch of a time trying to understand what consciousness is, for example. And what the atheists, I'm generalizing obviously, but they end up twisting themselves in knots trying to explain consciousness away and trying to explain free will away.
I think
So there's many theories of consciousness. Do we understand it completely? No. Does anyone have the answer to what consciousness is yet? No. But isn't that just a God of the Gaps fucking argument? It is. You can wrap it up in all the sophistication you want, but it still just boils down to, look, we don't understand something. Must be God. Must be God, right? The free will debate, I'm not even going to touch on that because I don't care about it. Sam Harris wrote a fucking book about it if you want to read that shit. I don't really care about the free will debate, like at all. It's never interested me to the slightest degree, even though it intersects with some of the stuff that I talk about. Never really cared about it. Because whether we have free will or not, we live within the illusion of free will, so who cares?
As somewhat of an atheist, an agnostic atheist, I mean, I'm comfortable just saying I don't know. That doesn't bother me, and I don't think it bothers most atheists.
No,
either.
and I think. Look, the other
Like,
thing I
it's
should say about atheists is it's not like I think they're any less intellectually honest than fundamentalists.
Right.
In fact, often quite the contrary, because you see fundamentalists. The problem with the fundamentalists, broadly speaking, is that they insist that their truths, the biblical truths, say, have the same status as scientific truth,
Right.
and that's just not right. Like whatever the story of Genesis, the stories in Genesis are, they're not scientific theories.
Okay.
They're more like. So, this is the way I look at it. You read a great work of fiction. You read
Right.
something by Dostoevsky.
The way he looks at it. Dostoevsky. Okay, let's get into Dostoevsky.
Or Shakespeare. And
right,
you think,
Shakespeare.
that's so powerful, it's so true. It's like, no, it's not, it's fiction. You think, well, okay, but wait a sec, it's profound and true, but it didn't happen. Well, how can it be true? We think, well, it's...
Because it touches on some facet of the fucking human experience, obviously. It's not a mystery. It's not like, wow, where does the power of art come from? I mean, like, read some fucking... I mean, this guy... I mean, you have read Joseph Campbell. I know Jordan Peterson has read Joseph Campbell. Because he stole a lot from Joseph Campbell, even though he kind of decries him. It's kind of weird. The power of art is not some inexplicable thing, though. It's not difficult to grasp why something that happens to a fictional character could be likened to our real-life events. Even if it's something fantastical like... they visited another realm or another planet or another world. They saw some crazy shit. They were bestowed amazing powers. Because human beings have the capacity for imagination. That's the explanation of that. It's not, oh, how can it be true even though it's not true? It's true because it speaks to us, because it was created by us. Kind of gets back into the same thing I was talking about to that in my humble opinion bitch a couple of fucking segments ago. TJ, stop strawmanning. You haven't even heard him. How come you don't care when I interrupt anyone else? I interrupted every fucking person I've looked at today. I've interrupted them and added my own 2 cents. And you haven't given a shit. You haven't been like, you strawmanned that poor girl. You strawmanned that guy. But when it comes to Jordan Peterson, and I let him talk for a good, healthy amount of fucking time. When it comes to him, all of a sudden, oh my God, you're just strawmanning. You haven't even heard out what he's got to say. Like, how much of a fucking Jordan Peterson quote do you have to listen to before the context police are satisfied? Like, how much do I have to hear before I can have an opinion on what this fucker is saying? No shit, Peterson fans are cult-like.
Distillation, right? So you look at human life and you map it and you extract out the key elements to it and you tell this beautiful story that has the relevance across all sorts of domains, all sorts of people's lives. Well, that would be fiction, great fiction. Well, the biblical stories are like, you take a bunch of lives and you distill them into stories. And then you take a bunch of stories and you distill them into myths. And a myth has that kind of unbelievably potent truth that's a consequence of the distillation of human wisdom. And there's something about it that's transcendent and true across time and all of that. It's eternal in some sense. And so that starts to border on...
No, it's not. It's just fucking not. Are there myths and legends that resonate with human beings? Sure. But are there people who disagree with the messages of those? Yeah. I mean, you just lamented in your fucking previous video that I reviewed, the PragerU video. I guess it wasn't previous for you, but whatever. You lamented in that video, it's now possible to get an English degree without reading a single word of Shakespeare. Don't you think that's because they've rejected Shakespeare? Obviously, for them, it isn't the fucking truth. It's just some fucking, it's just some cis white male writing some lies. You know? So obviously it's not this great universal truth that is 100% accepted by all human beings ever. It's just not.
On what people would normally, would appropriately consider religious. Now you might say, well, that can all be true without there being a God. It's like, fair enough, fair enough. And when I did my biblical lectures last year, I did 15 biblical lectures only on Genesis. You know, I only approached them psychologically. I said, well, here's what these stories signify from the perspective of the psychology of narrative. Here's what they mean. Does that imply God or not God? And my answer to that was, well, I'm not denying or affirming that. It's like I'm leaving the doorway open for a metaphysical reality. And
The reason I ask is because
I mean, you can leave the doorway open for a metaphysical reality without being religious. You can leave the doorway open for a metaphysical reality just by being an open-minded, skeptical person. For someone who decries postmodernism, Jordan Peterson sure is a slippery eel. Jordan Peterson is one of the most postmodernist thinkers I've ever seen in my life. That's why I never understand his condemnation of postmodernism, because the whole shtick of postmodernism is, you know, what is reality? What is all this stuff really? You know, there's no real answers. And he's like a pig in shit in the muck of fucking postmodernism, rolling around. Oh, yeah, this myth contains truth, and we got to be open to a metaphysical reality. I'm not saying there is a God, but I'm not saying there isn't a God, but I'm saying that this might be a doorway to the metaphysical experience. Blah, 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 blah. It's just a lot of fucking word salad. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was an atheist channel on YouTube. I forget the one, but you should be able to find it by searching for Jordan Peterson or random word generator. Or maybe it's Jordan Peterson or word salad. And it's a panel of people, including Matt Dillahunty, who are sitting around and they're listening to random quotes, some of which were generated by a random word generator trying to mimic Peterson, and some of which are actually Peterson quotes. And they all sound like fucking total nonsense, but some of them are actually fucking Peterson. Like, there's crazy... I can't fucking remember verbatim what one was, but there was one that was like something akin to... If you deny superficial, tacit reality, you murder your unborn self, and just gibberish. Just nonsense. Doesn't matter how much context you give it, it's just verbal diarrhea. But that's kind of Peterson's bread and butter, is being slippery as an eel, trying to sound like he's saying something smart, and then people resonate with it. Oh, yeah, he's smart. And then when anyone challenges it, they're like, you just don't understand him. It's like, do you? Do you? Because I don't really think there's much to understand there.
Because there's a lot of religious people who just completely...
Someone just said TJ Meat Kettle. No, when I speak, if you actually listen to what I say, it's easy to comprehend what I'm talking about. I don't speak in circular, metaphorical riddles. I don't talk about metaphysical doorways and shit. That's not me. So don't act like I'm looking at the clone of my fucking self. We're not so different, you and I. Yeah, we are. Yes, we are.
Completely dismiss atheism or unreligious people. And, you know, one thing that I always hear that drives me crazy is like, how do you know right from wrong if you don't believe in God? And that drives me insane, because it's like, I don't think that I need God to tell me not to rape and murder people. That seems insane. For a religious person that says that almost says to me that you want to go out and rape and murder people. The only reason you don't is because you're afraid of God.
Well, see, I have a little bit more sympathy to that for that viewpoint, because my claim would be the ethic that you have, that inhabits you, say, that helps direct your conscience, is partly a consequence of rationality. But it's more importantly a consequence of you being embedded in a culture that tells certain types of stories. So it's back to the story.
So you think the Bible influenced me, whether if I acknowledge it or I'm aware of it or not?
Oh yeah, it can't help it.
You think that what we...
Okay, murder is considered wrong in every single human society to ever exist. Now, there have been exceptions to that, like, maybe if you're in the Wild West or something. I killed him. Well, why? Because he cheated at cards. Okay, well, that's valid. But just outright walking up to a motherfucker in the street that's part of your same society and hitting them with a rock or shooting them or whatever you fucking do has never been just like, this is socially acceptable. This is socially acceptable and fine. And usually when stuff like that does happen, religion is the precursor to it. Like when people start killing other members of their own society, it's usually because like, they're a witch, or we have to appease the gods with a sacrifice, so I'm going to cut you open and rip your heart out and hold it up to the sky. There's never been a society that like there's a book, it's hard to get a hold of. It's called Human Universals or something along those lines, and it's all about the shared morality and shared social aspects of all human cultures across the globe, and there's tons of them. And it's not just religious societies that have that. Every society does not like rape. Every society does not like murder. Now, once again, they might not have our same definitions of rape and murder. They might be a little looser with it, or they might have certain exceptions for religion or whatever the fuck custom bullshit. But for the most part, and in fact, not for the most part, but for the entire part, murder and rape and all these things that you decry are just contemptible across the vast spectrum of human cultures. So how can you say that it's the Bible that brought that about? I mean, the fucking code of Hammurabi, doesn't that predate the Bible? That was the first example that we can point to of written down human laws. Those were not inspired by the Bible. They still say don't kill people. They still say don't steal. It's not a matter of the stories that people are told. It's a matter of empathy. What I love is that the JPB cult is always shouting, you don't understand, and without elaborating what you don't understand, when it is clear that you understand what his vacuous fuck is saying better than they do. I know. Morality is based on empathy. And not just emotional empathy, but intellectual empathy. The reason that we say, hey, let's not rape and murder and all this stuff is because, hey, I don't want to be raped. I don't want to be murdered. I don't want to live in a society where that's the norm because that affects me. So there's an aspect of selfishness to morality. And that's it, and there's no perfect moral system or perfect moral code. It has very little to do, though, with the stories that we tell ourselves. Maybe those stories reinforce existent morality or try to show people examples of why those morals work or why breaking those moral taboos is a bad idea. Maybe it's a cautionary tale kind of stuff, like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. It teaches us why it's bad to lie. Although I was watching a DS9, Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Bashir, the doctor, tells Garrick, who's a Cardassian, the story of the boy who cried wolf. And Bashir summarizes the moral of the story as, don't lie. And Garrick, being the deceptive, slippery fuck that he is like, I don't think that's the moral at all. I think the moral is don't tell the same lie twice. So even that could be interpreted in different ways. People bring different interpretations to the same fucking story. Even if you could demonstrate that morality comes from storytelling, that still says nothing about the prospect of whether or not there is a God. That's like saying that, the works of Shakespeare, the characters of Shakespeare must be real in some sense because we find truth in them. It doesn't make any fucking sense, Jordan. God and truth are one and the same to Jordan B. Peterson. To him, God is the peak value of all possible value hierarchies. This is why his talk with Harris failed and why he can't concretely define any truth claim. Yeah, and by the way, if you really want to see just how slippery Peterson is, watch his first discussion with Sam Harris, because they can't even agree on a definition of fucking truth. Anyway, I think I've watched enough of this. Hopefully, the angry Petersonite that keeps sending me this shit will finally be satisfied that I've given Peterson a fucking fair shake. I hope that he is. If he's not, fuck him. I'm sorry. I can't watch any more of this horse shit. YouTube makes it hard for creators to make money on this platform, so I appreciate your support through PayPal or through Patreon. Links to both can be found below in the description section for this video. And once again, thank you.